Okay, volume 7 of my this 10 book series. We're in the 7th book of the Bible story. My volumes are all 10 of them are blue. This one has a representation of Mary and a toddler Jesus on the front, and on the back it has a representation of Joseph, the carpenter, working in his shop. And of course we're in the New Testament, and we are at part 3, story 12, sudden harvest. Let me try to get this a little more in the center. There you go. It says sudden harvest. I'm reading. So this is it's 3.5 years that he was doing his ministry. So 3.5 years. Just give you a tidbit there. Okay, part 3, story 12, sudden harvest. After the Passover, Jesus stayed a while in Judah, teaching and healing the people. Then, with his disciples, he turned northward again to get towards Galilee. On the way, they stopped at a city called Sychar, 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 which belonged to the Samaritans. These people, you remember, were descendants from the strangers whom the king of give me a second. Descended from the strangers whom the king of Assyria, there we go, brought into Palestine when he took the Israelites into captivity. Having lived here for hundreds of years, they felt that the country belonged to them just as much as to the Jews. But the Jews hated them and would have nothing to do with them. His disciples went into Sychar to buy food. Jesus, worried from the day's journey, sat down by the well. It was called the well of Jacob. It was called Jacob's well because people believed Jacob had digged it when he passed this way. Just then, a Samaritan woman carrying a water pot drew near. Sitting down her pot, she lowered the bucket into the water and hauled it up again. And as she did so, Jesus spake to her. Give me a drink, he said. The woman looked at him in astonishment. Yeah, probably didn't. She didn't notice he was there. She was focused on doing her work. How is it that you, a Jew, ask a Samaritan for a drink? The Jews have no dealing with the Samaritans. But there was no national barriers in his heart. We loved everybody, no matter what he was born. If you had known who asked you for a drink, he said, you would have asked him for a drink and he would have given you living water. You don't have a bucket and the well is deep, said the woman. Where do you keep this living water? And are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well? Jesus answered in the words that will live forever. Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him as a well of water springs up into everlasting life. uh, the woman caught the meaning of the beautiful words, especially that whosoever. She saw that it included even her, a Samaritan. Sir, give me this water, she cried. And then she cried, then I will never be thirst again and never have to come here to draw water anymore. Jesus smiled at her eagerness, but had a lesson to teach her. Go, call your husband and come back, he said. The woman hung her head and said, I have no husband. And then, of course, uh, Craig Collins, the painting by Craig Collins. That's the painting. And it says, when the woman at Jacob's well realized that Jesus loved everybody, even the Samaritans, she eagerly requests that he give her a drink of the living water, that water he had promised to her. And then we'll go ahead. It says, you have spoken the truth, said Jesus. You have had 5 husbands, and this one have now you have now is not your husband. The woman's eyes opened wide in amazement. How did this stranger know so much about her? Are you a prophet? You must be a prophet, she whispered. Then she tried to change the subject by talking about the proper place of people to worship, whether Jerusalem or Samaria. But Jesus kept bringing her back to the truth, to the great truths of his kingdom. God is a spirit, he said to her, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. In other words, the place doesn't matter. Anyone, Jew or Samaritan, may worship God anywhere. What matters is the spirit in which one worships. Somehow the conversation turned to the coming of the Messiah. I know he's coming, she said, and when he comes, he will tell us all things. She was close to the kingdom now, so very close, and Jesus longed to bring her in. I that speak unto thee am he said gently. What she said in reply we don't know, but at that moment the disciples returned with the food they had bought. They were amazed to find him talking with a woman, and such a woman. Didn't doesn't didn't he know she was a Samaritan? Didn't he know that she was living a very wicked life? But they didn't say what they thought. Master, eat, they said, spreading out the supper before him. But he didn't eat. He was thinking about the poor woman and how near had come to understanding the truth about himself and his kingdom. He could still see her running back to the city as fast as she could, and he knew what would happen next. And then it's a 2-pager of the disciples coming back up here at the top or in the middle, and then Jesus talking still to the Samaritan, and she's shocked and like in the TV show, she started running away. She was so happy, and she ran back towards the city, and that's a dramatic thing that I saw. I remember in the story. Then he surprised his disciples by saying, "Say ye not, There are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Hold, behold, I say unto you, lift up mine eyes, and look on the fields, for they are white, ready for harvest. What did he mean? They wondered. Of course, there were 4 months before the harvest, but what had that to do with their supper? And how could there be a harvest of gathering now? Then they saw it. Coming out of the city's gates were a crowd of excited people, men and women, boys and girls. They were running towards the well. In their midst was the woman who had been with Jesus just a little while before. At the top of her voice, she was shouting, "Come see the man! Come see a man, which told me all the things I had ever did. Is not this the Christ?" What harvest that was, and how quickly the seeds had sprouted. Not 4 months, not 4 months had been needed to bring forth this rich fruitage, but a 4 minute walk with Jesus. On and on the people came, eager to see the Messiah and hear his message for them, and of harvest of Samaritans for the kingdom of love. And then it's got her, a representation of her dancing and Jesus looking on at her. There's the illustration. She's so happy. You can see her spinning. Okay. And that was the end of part 3, story 12, and the end of part 3. So it's time for the break, and then I'll be back in a bit so we just got to go through part 4, and then I'll be ready to do volume 8, but we'll have to see. See you in a bit.